Stalls. Is that in
That's
Kingston?
That's the front of the story. You can see just
Oh yeah.
my father's name was Wagner and Bessemer.
Wagner and Bessemer. Why does it say Stalls?
That was one of the meat suppliers for the deli.
Yeah.
You know, hot dogs and salamis and liverwurst.
Mm-hmm. Ready
salads and bologna.
Yeah. Ready to eat meats.
Bologna.
That looks kind of European. Paul Bessemer. Gotta take my glasses off. Cigar and tobacco and something else I can't read. Okay, so where is this?
Bielefeld.
Okay. And who is Paul Bessemer?
My grandfather. That's him.
Mm-hmm. And is he the one that he came to the United States with your parents?
Yeah.
Okay.
They all came. And my brother. That dog came too.
What's the dog's name?
I don't know. I never met the dog.
Let me get a close up of the dog. That's really great. And the dog immigrated to the United States. Awesome.
Yeah, my grandmother wasn't going to leave without her dog.
Okay, so that's your grandfather, that's your grandmother, that's their dog, and who are these people?
My mother and father.
Oh my gosh. Seriously?
Yeah.
Wow.
Why are you so surprised?
I don't know. I've never seen my grandfather looking like that, so young.
Young with a mustache, and she'd already got a receding hairline.
Yeah, true.
Well, I mean, they were in their early 20s when they got married. They were born in 1897. And they came over in, you probably know better than I do, 1922 or 3. I think it might have been 23, I'm not sure.
Uh-huh. That sounds about right. I know it was like after the German economic problems.
Yeah. And major crisis. It was, I know my brother was only maybe 2 years old.
So this was taken in Germany then, that picture?
Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that was taken in Germany.
Okay. And he's the one who's interested in photography, right? Your grandfather?
Yeah, he worked. My grandmother ran the store.
Mm-hmm.
She did the business. And he went out to work. He was, I don't know, I guess a tool and die maker or something similar to that, whatever that means.
Mm-hmm.
It's a skilled worker,
Yeah.
factory worker. And he actually found a job like that in this country for quite a few years,
Mm-hmm.
until we went to war in 1941.
Mm-hmm.
And since he had been a German citizen and they had switched to wartime supplies, he lost his job.
Uh-huh. They were worried about sabotage or something?
I guess something like that.
Mm.
And look at that head of hair on her.
Yeah. She looks like an intimidating person.
Well, I don't know.
It's hard to tell with these old pictures.
I was not really intimidated by her, but she was kind of cold towards me.
Mm-hmm.
She put up with me, but I remember one time my mother was hospitalized, and after school I had to go to their house instead of going home,
Mm-hmm.
and it was awful. I mean, I just didn't feel very welcome at all.
Yeah.
But she adored my brother, and
Uh-huh.
she'd only had one child.
Mm-hmm.
She thought when they had my brother that was enough for them too.
Yep, they should have stopped there.
Well, my mother said she took her to an abortionist on at least 2 occasions
Wow.
without my mother knowing where they were going.
Oh.
I mean, she didn't. It was not. She told my mother she was taking her for health care.
Mm-hmm.
And my mother was not the sort of person who would stand up to her mother-in-law.
Wow.
And this guy, my grandfather, he was kind of out of it. I mean, you know, he was a good worker, an intelligent man, but he loved photography. He loved being out in nature. He would roam around looking for things he could make teas out of. And he would take, you know, pick these weeds and take them home and dry them.
Uh-huh.
And he had a cure for every ailment from his teas that he found.
Was he the one who played the zither too?
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
And he was tough on my father as a young boy.
Uh-huh.
That's
So-
my brother
Yeah. With his grandmother.
and grandmother, yes.
Mm-hmm.
Didn't worry about their weight.
Yeah.
She was a beautiful woman. She was overweight, but she had this magnificent head of hair. And,
Yeah.
and he was a very imposing figure.
Mm-hmm. The dog, is that that's the dog that came over?
Yeah.
I guess.
Yeah. I don't know who this is. It's not my father.
Yeah. Somebody who plays something. Is that a viola? Can't really tell.
I don't know. Something you play with a bow.
Yeah.
My grandfather and my father were very accomplished zitherists, which played that with your fingers.
Yep. Yeah. Do you still have the zithers?
I gave them away.
Uh-huh.
I had them in that front closet for years and
Remember
years and
that.
years. But
Yeah.
this is, I guess, the family that sponsored them. There's my father.
Mm-hmm.
Where's my mother? My
There's your
grandmother.
grandmother.
I can't find. Oh, there's my mother lurking behind my father there,
Oh,
and my brother.
she looks like you there. I don't really.
You think?
Yeah, in that picture.
If this was a family, they had like 12 children.
Mm-hmm.
Who knew from birth control at that time?
Yeah. Wow. So they were a German family? I mean, did
Well,
they
they'd been here a couple of generations,
Oh,
I think,
okay.
but they were originally a German family.
So how did they come to sponsor why did they do that?
One of the sons, as I say, they had 10 or 12 kids. One of the sons had some sort of business in Germany, and it was in the early 1920s. And he looked up my father up because he knew there was a distant relationship of some sort there. And they were in that very inflationary period in Germany where people were demanding to be paid like 3 and 4 times a day. You'd see people, you know, running to the bank at 10 o'clock in the morning after having worked since 8 in order to maximize, or running to the store, I should say, in order to maximize their earnings because the inflation was just going through the roof. And he looked my parents up and he convinced my father that they'd be smart to think about immigrating. And he said his family would sponsor them, which they did. And my grandparents didn't want to come, but they wouldn't leave their only son, wouldn't let him go without them. So the whole family and the dog, that is 4 adults, 1 baby boy, and a dog, packed up their belongings, and they brought quite a lot of their belongings along, actually, and came to this country. And they lived with this huge family for a while until it became impossible. And my mother and father went to work, and my mother went to a shirt factory to work, and she was a very very good worker, I guess. And she said she was so good that they put her on the silk shirts,
Oh.
which were very expensive and fancy.
Yeah.
But meanwhile, somebody else was taking care of my brother, who was only a couple of years old, and he was having a breakdown, this little baby. And my father said, "You've got to quit work and take care of him." So that was what she did. And they moved away from the family, this huge family.
Was the family in Kingston or near Kingston?
In Kingston. They were right
mhm.
in Kingston. And they got their own little place somewhere in Kingston. And my mother stayed home with her baby boy.
Mhm.
And that was how they got into the deli.
Yeah.
I guess
When you say they got their own place, your grandparents came with them too, right? It was the
no, they didn't live together. My grandparents found a place to live. My grandfather was a very skilled factory worker. So he didn't have any trouble finding work. And he kept that job right up until we went into World War II, when, because of his German ancestry, they wouldn't let him work on the things they were making for the war effort at that point. No, my mother had to give up her job at the shirt factory and take care of my brother, and that was how they got into the deli business, when she was taking him out for a walk and they spotted that pumpernickel in the window.
Yeah.
My mother had to have that pumpernickel. And I've probably told you this before. And when she wanted to get the pumpernickel, the mom, she kind of made friends with Mrs. Gunzelmeyer, who were the owners of the store. And Mrs. Gunzelmeyer said, "I speak German, ich spreche Deutsch," and invited her to come and work for them. And she said, "I can't leave my little boy." And she said, "You can bring him along. I have 2 teenage daughters who will help look after him." So that's how they got to the deli business. When the Gunzelmeyers were ready to retire, Mr. Wagner, Gus Wagner, the older brother, decided to buy that business for his brother, Richard Wagner. He said, "But my brother can't manage a business by himself. He's the hard worker, but he can't manage a business." So they implored my parents to stay on. My father to go into partnership with him and do the book work and the ordering and all that stuff. And they both worked in the store behind the counter, and their wives, especially my mother and grandmother, worked in the kitchen doing the salads and the deli meats and things. More of that family. There's my brother as a baby.
Those are cute. Those are cute.
Yeah.
That's him too, with his little
He was a cute, healthy
push
little
toy.
boy.
Yeah.
He was lovely until, I don't know, until his early teens, or 12 or 13, when he contracted polio.
Yeah.
Which, my Uncle Gus and Aunt Emmy, who got my family into the deli business, also prevailed upon my parents to let their son go to camp when he was, I think, 12 years old. I was only about 3 at the time. I was 8.5 years younger than him. And they decided he should go to camp. And when he was in camp that August, there was a big polio epidemic. And he came home from camp. And I can still remember as a little kid sitting at our kitchen table having lunch without my brother, because he felt tired and he was in his bedroom resting. And he must have gotten up because I heard a great clunk. And I said, I think Egon was his name. I think Egon fell down. And my mother rushed to his bedroom and he was lying on the floor. and he could barely move. And he
Oh.
had apparently contracted polio that August
At the camp.
at the camp.
Were there a lot of other kids that got polio at that camp?
I don't know. I don't know that. But, you know, there were people. I could still remember ambulances going by with some sort of a construction trailing behind, going up and down and up and down as to keep the kids
iron lung.
breathing.
Oh,
Yeah,
yeah.
and it was an iron lung. And I don't know.
Put my glasses on. What's
Anyway, you know, I was supposed to start school that fall, but they wouldn't let me start school because they were afraid I was going to, since I had been exposed to polio, that I was going to expose other kids to polio. So I
Yeah.
started school a year late.
what's that building?
I don't know. I don't know what that is. I don't know that I ever knew what that was.
Okay. You don't have to know everything.
No. And I may have forgotten some stuff too, but look at that car.
Who's
I don't think that was our car. I don't know. It was, but I'm not sure that we even had a car at that point. But I do know when I was about 11 or 12 years old, we had a car that looked not too unlike that, you know, with this kind of a square built before they got the sloping rear ends.
Yeah.
And I remember my father volunteering to take a bunch of kids to day camp. You know, they were asking for parent volunteers for the children to take them to this camp. And my father volunteered, and nobody wanted to get into our car because we had the only square car still.
Uh-huh.
And, you know, everybody else had a new sloped car.
Oh, I
And-
see. It was too old-fashioned or something?
Yeah.
No?
And I was humiliated.
Oh, I know.
It was so embarrassing.
Tough to be a
It's
kid.
my grandma with her beloved radio.
That's not the radio. It's a different radio.
Yeah. It's the original radio. I think.
Did that radio come from Germany?
I don't think so. You know, they brought a lot of stuff, but I don't think they brought anything like that. And this whole album is kind of falling. Look at the hats on the women. God, down. They covered their eyelashes even. Their eyebrows.
Yeah.
That's these pop type hats.
Yep. Well, I
all
guess
decked.
you weren't dressed until you'd put a hat on.
Right, right. It was,
That looks like an Easter thing. Those Easter
Yep.
baskets. Yeah.
I guess it was, yeah. No, here's somebody got married. Oh, yeah, that was Uncle Frank and Aunt Katie. Aunt Katie was the dressmaker. She made a fur coat for me when I went away to college.
Wow.
And her husband, he was Swiss. And when I was a kid, he went back to Switzerland to visit family there. And when he came back, he brought a little wooden nutcracker back with him that's in my living room.
Oh, yeah.
He gave it to me for a present. And
Was Aunt
The-
Katie really an aunt, or you just called her
no,
aunt?
no,
Yeah.
you know, I didn't have any aunts at all, or uncles, but I called all these people, these close friends of my parents, almost all of whom were immigrants. I called them all aunt and uncle out of it was a courtesy title. It was, you know, just what you did. You didn't call them Mr. or Mrs. Kubitschek and Mr. or Mrs. Sturley. You called them Uncle Frank and Aunt Katie.
Okay.
But, yeah, these were all immigrants, I think. I don't know, these Czechoslovakia there. She was American. And here's my father peeking out. That was a picture of our backyard behind the store, our weedy backyard.
Yeah.
That must be my grandmother's dog. Oh, this was taken, I think, by the Ashokan Reservoir. which is not far from our house.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, you're from Kingston. It was maybe a 20 minute, 30 minute, 20, I'm thinking somewhere but less than half an hour drive from home. And that was where we would go to the Ashokan Reservoir, which somebody made a song of during the Ashokan.
Yeah.
Yeah, the reservoir. That's where we would take our picnics and things. It was beautiful out there. The reservoir was very pretty. And you know, I don't know if it was true or not, but they swore that on a clear day, if you leaned over the edge of the reservoir and looked down, if the water was very clear and not roiling, you could still see the tops of houses in that valley that they flooded to make a reservoir.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There's a, yeah.
Okay.
There's a reservoir in Massachusetts where you can see a church steeple down there.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Yeah. My grandmother, God, she was beautiful. She was overweight, but she was a beautiful woman.
Mm-hmm.
It was, but she didn't like me very much. The one time that she had to take care of me, when I was, I think, a first grader, and my mother was in the hospital for something or other, I had to sleep at their house. Now, she would have my brother sleep at her house, and they had a cot down in the dining area. And he would sleep on that, but she wouldn't let me sleep on that because I was little. She made me sleep between my grandmother and grandfather.
Oh, God.
And it was horrible. I was so glad when I was able to go home and get my own bed. Besides which, I never felt she liked me all that much. She thought I was one child too many for my parents to support. Yeah. My mother with her hat. And my father, he was getting bald pretty early there.
Oh, yeah.
And Aunt Emmy. They bought Aunt Emmy and Uncle Gus, no relation to me. Those were the people who facilitated buying the deli for her husband's brother, Richard Wagner. This is Gus Wagner. They bought a business in Phoenicia. Mm-hmm. And they had no children, and they would take me home with them when I was a very little kid, maybe 3-4 years old, and stay a weekend or even a week sometimes with them and make believe I was their child. And I liked that because they not only had a fun store with their living quarters on the same floor, but they had a soda fountain in that store. And you know, I could climb up on a stool and have a soda, and it was great. And Phoenicia became kind of a cult place during the generation that Ken and Marilyn grew up in. Mm-hmm. Yeah, it was a whole different world. You were lucky if you had a radio, never mind television or computers.
You know, we're lucky that your grandfather liked photography.
Yeah,
I mean,
most of these pictures were pictures he took and printed himself.
Yeah.
And he did a fine job, didn't he? Not so good there.
Maybe he didn't do that one.
No, probably not.
One of the chemicals was a little off.
There's Aunt Emmy. She was like a second mommy to me when I was a little kid. But Maureen has there they all are in front of the store. Maureen has a picture of me and the Crines, who were also a related family to the Wagners, sitting creekside on a log or something, and I'm frowning, and Ruth Crine has got a big laugh on her face. And it's because Uncle Gus was taking our picture, and I always smiled for the camera because my grandfather was a photographer in addition to being a tool and die maker. So I knew to smile for the camera, but she didn't. She was cranky. And so he made her laugh, And I imitated him with his cranky looking face. He's got this funny picture of me looking really grouchy and her with this big grin on her face. Okay. So my father, you can see he's already beginning to put on a little weight there. He's tall, slender, good looking as a young man. But yeah, this is my grandmother, Aunt Emmy, Uncle Gus. I guess that's my mother and my brother. And that must be my father. I don't know who these other people are.
Yeah.
In my grandma's house. Okay. That's my brother.
Nice.
Yeah.